To get comfortable with drawing the human face, you have to draw a lot. In this case, I'm teaching you how to put graphite in the back of an image. Hopefully you have your selfie and you're going to put graphite on the back of your selfie picture. And then you're going to turn it over, and with the sharpest pencil you can, you're going to trace your features to the best of your ability. Now, this is practice, so you can make it as big as your hand, which is the best size, and then trace it that way. And this way you could see where your eyes, nose, and ears line up if you're doing a side profile or even a front profile. In the end of the video, you're going to see me do a 3/4 profile drawing of myself. When you divide the face into three, it's easier to figure out where things fit. I usually say unit 1 is the forehead, unit 2 is the eyes, nose, and ears, and unit 3 is the mouth. Based on perspective, these units don't always stay the same, but for side and 3/4, it's not so bad. It stays consistent. If you were to be looking up or down at a person's skull, the proportions are definitely going to change. Like you might see more cranium or you might see more mouth, depending on the angle you are looking at. But in this case, we're doing side profile in 3/4, and this is how I would remember where to position the eyes, nose, and ear in unit 2. You see me using the skull as a reference, and I also use a mannequin as a reference. Again, drawing the face and anything takes practice. You have to be consistently measuring things. So this is a general template on how to build a face. And again, 1, 2, and 3 is my favorite. If it's a frontal position, I use 5 as well. Remember, you can think of the eyeball as 1 unit. So you have 2 eyeballs, that's 2 units. The nose is a 3rd unit, and the side of the face will usually be width-wise 5 units. So we did that for the frontal profile. When it comes to the side, it doesn't stay that way, okay? So that definitely applies to the frontal profile. Now this mannequin is not symmetrical. You're going to see the back of her head is bigger, her ears are lower. In my case, for some reason, I put her ears all the way to the back of her skull. I guess I was very tired when I was drawing this. But sometimes your artist's eye doesn't capture things the way you want it, and that's okay. You just erase and redraw. Now, in my case, I have very large ears, a very small nose, bigger eyes, and a wider face. But one rule is the front of your face in a side profile is usually as big as the back. So if you draw the letter T, think of it like an inch. The first inch is going to be the front, and the back inch, number 2, is going to be the back of your head, okay? So the letter T is how I divide the skull when I'm doing a portrait side profile. I didn't do it with the mannequin because I was doing the pencil technique measuring. But in this case, I'm using the T method, which is dividing the face in half and then building my 3 units. Now, at some point, you can see that I put my unit in the center of the parted mouth. Usually the 3rd unit is going to stop right below the nose and the ears, and then you'll fit the mouth and the chin in the 3rd unit. So the mouth usually is in the center part, but in this case, I seem to want a little differently. Now that happens, again, when you're drawing, you don't always pay attention to the rules, and you can redraw, start, and stop. Remember, the more you draw and practice, the more these things stick in your brain and you can adjust. Now, in this case, I didn't have the back ponytail, so I just followed the circular part of the skull that I designed. Reference is really good to capture realism. And in my case, I went very just abstract with the back of the hair here. Now for this assignment, it's good to have your value scale, so this way you can practice shading. Shading is definitely going to make you look more realistic or more like yourself instead of just doing the tracing line art. So give yourself time to put that value scale and use your eraser for subtractive drawing to get some highlights. You could always leave it bare, you know, not fully cover it with graphite, the lighter parts. So this is the final one that I did for that. I didn't seem to take a really good picture, but now moving on to the skull, the 3/4 skull. Now our skull is facing one direction. You will see my picture is facing another direction, and that's okay. I mean, if you put your picture in your cell phone and then you flip it with your camera, edit adjust horizontal, you will have the opposite direction. So I'm following the lines of the face based on how I think I'm seeing it positioned. So you see it looks like a diagonal, and that is because it's a foreshortened image. Realistically, if you were to imagine a box, this would be 2-point perspective, okay? So I'm using my pencil to show me diagonally where the eyes are lining up, the nose and the mouth. And when you have the 3 units, 1, 2, and 3, it's easier to figure out that all those units are gonna align. Now, of course, the skull socket bone, as you see, is a different diagonal. So I change it when I'm in unit 2. It's slanting down. So think of it like somebody has like a frustrated eyebrow. That's how I always imagine the eye socket bone. And then I do the heart for the nose, and I give myself some space. I draw that L for the zygomatic bone, the cheekbone. Remember, it gives you that round shape. And the temple also starts where the zygomatic bone behind the eye socket is, okay? And that's going to give you that big dent in the side of the face. So you see me following my guideline. I'm slowly building the skull with the 3-unit method, and the letter D for the side of the mandible. And you can see another, like, you could call it like an eyeball or football, where the mandible meets the zygomatic bone. So here's the temple part, and now that hole for the ear. You don't always see it, but I always do it there. That's technically the center of the head, especially if it's a side profile, okay? Now again, this is a perspective view, 3/4, and with my units, I'm able to build the skull. Everything is building a template for yourself or guidelines until you finally master it and you don't really need to think about it and you can draw effortlessly with your head. Now for me, I'm still, I would say, learning to improve my drawing skills, so I always need to think of these rules. But once you got the rules, you get more comfortable in drawing. So I'm adding some darker HB tone in the back just so hopefully the skull can pop. I didn't have my value set pencils, so it stuck in the HB value. Now here I'm measuring the front of my face. Again, this would be a 2-point perspective image. Also, my horizon line is lower, so it's below my chin, okay? So if you were trying to build the face with a box, my horizon line would be lower, or I should say my camera level's eyesight is below. So again, I'm focusing on the 3 units. I realized that the page wasn't going to fit in the camera, so I turned it around. Now, when you're practicing these guidelines, you're not always going to have accuracy. It's not always going to look exactly like you, but you're going to start developing a habit that eventually will get close to likeness. You might get a cartoon version, and that's fine. Again, this is an intro class, so the more you draw, the more you will get to see where your errors are, whether it is that you're not paying attention to the height or the width, or you might have just focus on one feature. Like sometimes I would draw big eyes when I first started, and everything else will be smaller. So the more you practice, the more you realize what you tend to focus on. In this case, funny enough, I did the diagonals for positioning my eyes, nose, and ears. But at the end of the project, I realized that I did the eyes straighter instead of more diagonal. And I think sometimes we all try to make things into a frontal view, but again, this is a 3/4 view, and it's also high above the camera's eye level. That's why you see more chin. But if the eye level was higher, you will see more of the top of my head. So even though you don't always have to draw the horizon line, it's good to know where the horizon line is. And that's why I always point it out. Every picture or movie or comic book panel you see, there is a designated horizon line, whether it's above, neutral, or below. Now you see me using my pencil as a ruler to straighten it out. I'm trying to find those dips and curves within my face. And if I have a straight line, usually I could see how far away that curve is going to be from the straight line. So I think I get pretty close, but by the end, maybe I gave myself more forehead than chin. But you decide. I think my chin by the end of the project is a little smaller, so width-wise, I should have made it bigger and played with the values a lot more too. But I came out with the project pretty pleased. Again, this is just a demo, and I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just looking for you to try to work out the techniques so that you can get a closeness to your actual self-portrait, okay? Now that straight line was also a part of my height and my width guide. I'm trying to make sure to see how wide my face is compared to the width. So the one above my head is the width, and the one on the right, straight up and down, is the height. Now the diagonal will be my eyes, my nose, my mouth, and my ears. Like I said, at the end of the video, you will see that my eyes are straighter instead of slanted for the diagonal, representing width. But practice. Just keep practicing. And I will keep practicing and get more accuracy in my future videos. There's a rule that says if you can get the features of the face, height, width, and depth, the shape outside contours of your face correctly, when you get to the features, you'll definitely be able to see yourself. You can see yourself based on just the contours normally if you follow your shapes correctly. It's not always easy for me, but I try. I tend to draw diagonals from the corner of the ears to the nose where the nostrils or the mouth would meet. And that's usually to make sure that I can see the position of the mouth. I read this in a book that if you capture the V, especially if a person is smiling, you usually get a better accuracy. So it's stuck in my brain, and you see me now trying to get the diagonal of my eye position correctly, and then I adjust nose, mouth, and chin to match it. At least I tried. Again, at the end of the video, my eyes seem to be straighter than it should be. But the V technique definitely helps in getting the center of the mouth and imagining where to position the features of the corner of the mouth. Now remember, I showed you if you were to take a paper and you would curve it around your face, the mouth part specifically is the curve, is a curving area. If you look at the skull, you will see that in the 3/4 skull version above on the corner right, it looks rounded. And then you'll see more shade on the left side where the teeth and the left side of the nose is. So never try to draw the mouth straight. It's never straight, it's always curved. It's always good to draw a variety of people. Use yourself as your model because you'll get more variety in your facial features with expressions. I could be happy, sad, and just take pictures and practice. And nobody else has to see the pictures. But if you get reference of images of people that you may see in the street or just models or celebrities, you can practice like, let's say one actor may have a boxier face. I definitely have a more rounded face. My face is not as symmetrical as some people, and sometimes drawing the diversity of people's features makes your artwork more interesting and fun. So definitely get a variety of reference and practice drawing different faces. Here you can see me using the center of the eye pupil as a reference on where my mouth corner is going to be, or the corner of my eyes where the pink part is. You will see that that was normally where I'll use my guideline to where my nose starts. So those are big references to see what horizontally meets up, or I should say aligns. So the corner of your eye usually meets the corner of your nose, and the center of your eye where your pupils are is usually where your mouth will stop. The corners, I should say. And I call this the keystone, or you could say the bridge of the nose. Usually in the center, it's going to be straight, and on the sides, it's going to be more diagonal. So I always draw this keystone to help me remember that it's not just a straight line. It's not going to be just flat, and there's other features that help the nose curve. But the keystone's a good guide to remember where the center of the eye should be, and how to break down the nose. Now the tip of the nose can for some people be higher or lower, so it's always good to draw a straight line just to see where the nostrils are going to meet from left to right. So you see me guessing it right now, the straight line. And again, it should have been more diagonal. I should have followed the alignment of the pencil that I did earlier. But at the end of the day, I think the nose is not so bad. Now here I'm focusing on rounding the face because I do know that it's not just flat and straight. I want to get the angle of the teeth properly, at least I try. And if you draw the curve of the face, it can help you see how the mouth wraps around, the lips wraps around the teeth. So if you were to think of height, width, and depth, you definitely need a diagonal to represent the teeth is below. Or I should say the lips are above the teeth. Now I'm thinking of the letter M to try to get the top part of the lip. And there's always like the center kind of looks like an upside down triangle. So little by little, I'm trying to think of these features and build the mouth. I always think of the bottom of the mouth as a U shape. You can think of it as a little boat maybe. And I wrap that around to the corners. So you can see that I did the eyebrow area representing the eye socket of the bone, and then that circle is representing the eyeball shape itself. From there, I'm trying to draw the eyelids and how it wraps around the eyeball. Like nothing is just the same shape, so you're never going to have the same circle. When it comes to the eyelid, it's going to look like it's going to wrap bigger over the eyeball. And even though you normally see the opening of an eye looking like an almond shape, it's definitely wrapping around the eyeball itself.